Hola, buenas tardes. Bueno, bienvenidos una vez más. Esta es la primera conferencia que hacemos este año dentro del marco del máster en gráfico. Ya sabéis que son ciertas más. Hoy yo creo que empezamos con alguien muy relevante, con Kessels, de KesselsKramer, solo por el valor y la cantidad de años que algo a lo le doy las gracias a Erik. Luego quedará un ratito para preguntas para quien se anime. Daros que vamos, vale. Gracias y damos la bienvenida a Erik.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. Today I want to talk a little bit about a book that I made recently, which is called Quel désastre. It's called Failed It in English. This has mainly to do, this book, why I wrote this book is because nowadays we see that a lot of times in our creative industry, a lot of the things we use, like the machines we use, the programs we use, they are very much going towards perfection. And I mean, the cameras on our phones are very perfect, the computers we use. And in a way, this kind of perfection is really not a nice starting point for creative people. So the book is also deliberately about that it would be very good in your practice also to deliberately make a mistake and just going towards a mistake. So I don't mean that you learn from your mistake, but more that you really have to steer towards a mistake. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Also showing the work I did in the office, also showing a lot of my personal work. And throughout all the work you would see that failure and making mistakes is quite present in that work. I think to start, I think it's quite nice to say that as a creative you have to behave like an idiot. I say here at least once a day, but maybe even better when you do it more during a day. This has to do also because I think creatives are in a way kind of professional clowns, you know. You have to behave, I mean, you should not take yourself too serious, and you should really act stupid sometimes, I think, and out of this stupidness you can make quite good ideas in whatever profession you are, at least kind of a creative profession. I don't think you should be stupid as a doctor or as a bus driver, but I mean, as a creative you can really do this. I mean, in my working life I've been also a few times quite stupid, and this image is when my partner and I, Erik Kessels, when we just showed up in an office, like in a company we worked in England, in London, and we thought like, okay, it would be nice to one day just turn up in a chicken suit. I don't know why, we just thought it's nice to cheer everybody up a little bit, but then a week later we got fired just because of that. But in a way it was quite a nice motivation to also start our own company, because this is the first picture we took from our own company, like I am here on the left, and this was in 1996, and it shows also a little bit that we didn't take ourselves too serious. Even with making our own logo, I mean, this is the company logo, and this is like the thing that's on our door when you come in. And quite simple. You buy it in any shop and put your name on it, and then you have a logo. I mean, we work in a church in Amsterdam. Quite good, because you can tell your mother that you go to church every day, and that is. But I mean, it's also one open place that a lot of people communicate with each other without making phone calls. And it works pretty well. And In London, we have an office on Hoxton Square. That's in East London, and this is more like a retail space. So it's a shop, a gallery, and an office in one. And the office is in the basement. On the ground floor, we do like regularly exhibitions, and we sell also the publications we make and some products that we make, and also of the people that we really like, and we share that space. In the beginning, I mean, or even now, there's every 6 weeks there are a lot of people that don't even fit in the place. So I was quite amazed, like how many people that always show up there. But in the end, I found out that it had a lot to do with the free beer that we were giving, because after the beer, it was totally gone and empty. And yeah, like I like to show maybe some examples of some work, and I think it's very important when. I mean, when nobody hates your work, there's also not a lot of people that really love it. So if you make work that is really in the middle and that nobody loves and nobody hates, then in a way it makes no sense. I mean, it's just like work that isn't that doesn't pay attention and to some people. And so I think it should be quite extreme in some ways. Maybe some example of that. This is the theme for the city of Amsterdam that I did. The funny thing here was that we got invited to do a competition, to do a pitch for this project. And to be honest, after when we got the brief, going back to the office, we already came up with this idea, maybe in 2 minutes. And because it was quite, briefing was quite specific, and this idea was quite, it was like quite obvious to do this. And but then we thought, back in the office, we thought like maybe it's good to check if this is already existing, which wasn't the case. And we thought like maybe not take the risk. Maybe it's good to register this idea already. And so we did, maybe for quite a lot of money at that time, for something like 15,000 euro. We registered it, and it was kind of our idea then. 2 weeks later, we had kind of a lot of time in between because we had the idea already. But 2 weeks later, we presented it, and there was like 20 people in the room. And after our presentation, it was deadly silent, and nobody said anything. So I asked one of them, like, "Is there anything wrong?" Or and then she said, like, "Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, but the people that just presented before you had exactly the same idea." And yeah, we were like not very worried about that because it was our idea. You know, we bought it and we owned the idea. So we told them, and they were not very happy with that, by the way, because it was like a city job, and they wanted to keep everything open and all the options open. So they, in the end, they were with the 5 design agencies that pitched on that. There were 3 that had exactly the same idea. They designed it differently. But yeah, in the end they had to choose for us. So I didn't really like that they were forced to take us. And so, but it showed also that this theme was quite ambivalent from the beginning, because I mean a lot of people didn't really like it to kind of brand a city like that. And but now it's very popular and yeah, like and also many times copied, I think, because there's a lot of. I have a whole brochure, a whole folder full of copycats of this, because there's in Moscow they say "Wow Moscow," and it's like also like this, or "Only Lyon," and all these kind of things. This is another campaign we did from the beginning. This was also the time when there were these Calvin Klein ads where you saw that they photographed like black and white, beautiful people against a white background, standing there, and we just did kind of a rip-off of that for a shoe company in Holland, and we invited only handicapped people between 18 and 25 if they wanted to. We asked them if they wanted to star in these ads, and so it's all real. And I mean, some people hated it, but also some loved it. This is another example. It was for Diesel. We worked maybe 6 years for them. And Yeah, here we used a lot of irony in this campaign often. This was only one example of one campaign. We did, I think, 12 campaigns in total. Here it was all about that people wanted to stay, or at least that's what we thought, like people wanted to stay younger and younger constantly. So we gave all these tips how they could stay younger. So for instance, by drinking urine, in this case. Another company we work for is called, it's like a foundation called Women Inc. It's a foundation run by women, and they deal with a lot of female topics in society. So for instance, this is one topic where they addressed that women in their working life still earn 300,000 euro less than men. And so we did this campaign where women were really looking for their 300,000 euro. And, yeah. Another thing which is maybe quite good to say, I mean, I work in design and advertising maybe already 25 years, but I really hate it, you know, like I hate advertising. I mean, a lot of you must hate advertising, because in Spain it's also not that fantastic, of course, the advertising, but it's nowhere in a way. But what I like that a lot also, to kind of, yeah, just try to find the niches in there where you can change things or where you can do things differently. In this case, it's a mobile phone company called Ben, which means in Holland, if you say ik ben, it means I am. And yeah, like here we deal with kind of not the stereotypical people that you would use in these ads. So here it says Ben er nog, which means I am still here. Or on the right it says Ben welcome. Ik ben welkom, I mean I'm welcome. So that was dealing again with migration issues and asylum seekers in Holland. So we portrayed it in a way, all the people that were, I mean also the minorities, and over time, I mean I have only these examples on here, but it was often also quoted, this campaign, that this campaign did more for migration in Holland than all the governmental campaigns. Which had also to do that this was just a commercial campaign, but we involved these kind of people. Also we did different TV spots constantly, also dealing sometimes with social issues. The one I'm going to show now is dealing with the issue that when you're on the phone that you hardly have any eye for what is going on around you. So kind of an antisocial behavior to be on the phone. So this spot addressed that. So we made about 250 different spots, all the kind of short length, and then always with a person and Ben. And yeah, the next one is a very silly one, because if you make 250, you can also make very stupid ones. So that's quite, without any reason, so that's quite nice. Yeah, it makes no sense, but it's quite nice, I think. This is for a hotel in America called The Standard. And here we kind of dealt with, we had the idea to make the hotel, or to show the hotel that it was also anything but standard. So I lived for maybe 3 weeks in all the hotels with a photographer, and we found these little notes of people that they left in the hotel room. And then we reenacted them. So for instance, here there was a girl writing, did you actually notice that your logo is upside down on your building? So we put her upside down, and this was like, there's a ping pong bar on that first floor, and I saw like a ping pong ball. Once I saw one ball trying to get down, but it was constantly lifted up by the escalator. So then we did it with a lot of balls. Or here, it's like this guy, this is a hotel in Hollywood, and believe it or not, but this guy was passing the hotel in the same shirt like this, and So we just asked him if he could make a picture, and we took we put like a chair in the swimming pool, and we put him on the chair, and so that quite fun, and sometimes to also improvise and persuade these clients also that it's good that you make also more original work when you sometimes improvise. Next is like a TV spot for a radio station. This was during the World Cup of Soccer. And that during those times you also see a lot that a lot of the companies that sponsor soccer or that do something with it, they use exactly the same metaphors. They use the players, they show the national color. So it's perfect in a way when you have to do something like that to try to do it different. So for a radio station. Yeah, so the animal rights organization was not very happy with this spot because they were actually quite pissed off, and they wrote us a letter and they demanded that we would make that we had to make another spot to show that the dog was still alive, and but for us it was of course a blessing because it's great to kind of take the piss out of them and make another spot. So the next event for that radio station was the Tour de France, and then we brought the same guy with the same dog back into another film again. That's this one. Yeah, then they never called anymore. It was like deadly silent. We never heard of them anymore. So that's quite good. Some more recent work is kind of a branding job. We did this recently. You see often also, for instance, with this is for a museum in Germany, and you see often that in musea that their identities, they're often quite like stuck. They're very static, and because often in the museum itself there's a lot of different exhibitions and a lot of activities, but their logos and their corporate identities are often quite boring, and so we try to change that. In this case the museum is called NRW Forum Düsseldorf. So we took this white canvas as a starting point, made it kind of a graphic shape, and then in the logo with this name there's a lot of these canvases. And then we constantly filled it with different things, with different type. So it's constantly changing, and also the posters and that you would make are then, look constantly in a slightly different. Also, we use this kind of square to communicate a lot of different things. So this is outside where people normally are smoking. Here it says like a place to dance. Or hug zone, to hug somebody. It's a very small tile, but or room for discussion. And in the museum itself, everybody is wearing this white sweater with a title on, but they're totally mixed. So the director is wearing the security sweater, the exhibition designer, the shop manager. So you never know who is who, and that's quite nice because in a museum, if the work on the wall is very interesting and provoking, it's quite nice when your identity has the same feeling. So also these benches, they're always quite boring, so we put like text on there saying normal, different, better, so you can just decide where to sit. Or another one says father, mother, child, animal friend. So, and also this one says just corner. So just pointing at a corner, and then there's the locker area. So it says minibar or bad mood. You can lock up your bad mood. And this is the wardrobe. It says bitte keine Hosen, which means please no trousers. You need to keep them on. And this is a random masterpiece that you stumble upon. Or at the entrance, when you come in, it has these two buckets, and it says like on the right it says umbrellas, and then on the left it says donations. And room for rent, yeah, that's kind of an obvious one. And disco, it's like the alarm system. And yeah, also the general signage says like exhibition, childhood, Rome, find your own way, yes. So yeah, you can decide where to walk. And please no toasters. And this is the highest point in the museum. And then this is the toilet, of course, it's for free. Yeah, very recent one also is for a museum in Italy called the Triennale. Here they made an exhibition that was called Design After Design, a very big exhibition. And it basically was dealing with the fact like now that we can make anything that we want to make with the material and with the technology we have as designers, what are we actually going to make now? That's the big question, you know, because you can make anything. So we were asked to do like a campaign that would be that would promote the exhibition, but also could be a work in itself that could play a role in that exhibition. So we designed this yellow thing, which is in a way nothing. It's just like a stupid, somebody made it in 5 minutes, and then we 3D printed it very beautifully. But it has no function, but we kind of hyped this yellow thing. And we made a lot of images where you see that people really admire it or pray in front of it. And yeah, that was the idea to kind of promote this exhibition. Also, there were a lot of books that we made about this yellow thing. Just writing about stories about the yellow thing, what you can do with it, a lot of different things. There was merchandising, there were small touristic yellow things that you could take home. And yeah, even in the exhibition there was a little church where you could like pray to that real yellow thing. And then we also did a film to promote the yellow thing.
It's your partner, your navigator, your advisor. It will push you to your limits and beyond. It will make you better, more perceptive and fitter. It's your travel companion, decision maker and confidant. You will learn to love it, play with it, pray to it, get intimate with it. The next big thing is this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, another topic I think is what is quite nice also, and it has a lot also to do with failure and mistakes, is that sometimes when you have the idea like, listen, this is impossible, this idea or this challenge, that is actually a very good feeling to have, I think, as a creative or as somebody creating something new, because yeah, out of the possible things, there's always stuff created, but maybe not so much out of the impossible. This is maybe nice to show one campaign that we yeah, really worked on from the beginning. This was actually our first client that in 1996 they called like, we want to work with you. And there was this budget hotel from in the center of Amsterdam having 500 beds. And so I was quite happy, or we were quite happy that at least already somebody called. So I went there the next day and to the hotel to meet the client, and but it was like the biggest shithole I saw in my life. Like it was a terrible hotel. I mean, it smelled there, it looked horrible, and I thought, oh my God, thanks very much. This was the first client, and so I mean, but yeah, we didn't want to turn it down, and in a way, the owner of the hotel was very charismatic and very interesting and nice. And he also said, like, listen, only you can do whatever you like, but I want to get rid of my complaints. I'm sick of complaints, and I'm just help me, you know. So so we thought like maybe it's quite nice to. I mean, everything you would do for the hotel would be in a way a lie, because everything how you would make it better or look better would be kind of horrible. So then we thought like maybe honesty is their only luxury they have and the only possibility to work with. So kind of this honesty and the irony, that was something we worked with from the beginning, and up till now we still work for them. So in the beginning they had 60,000 overnights, and so we started, and then with this kind of honest campaign saying now a bed in every room, because they had a bed, and that was true in a way, and also now more rooms without a window, which was true as well, and there's a door in every room, and now also even more dog shit in the main entrance, which in Amsterdam it's quite normal that there's dog shit in the main entrance, so there was not a lie either. And also we did this for real in around the central station in Amsterdam, because there's a lot of dog shit, but there's also a lot of backpackers and students arriving to find the hotel, and they would see then this little flag in the dog shit saying now even more of this at our main entrance. And then also in the hotel itself we surprised the people when they checked in, because I mean it's quite embarrassing when you get into your room. So then this is the bed in the room, still looks like that, and so there's this card on there, and then when you have some scissors on you, you can cut all this kind of luxury out of the card, and then make it a bit more comfortable and a bit more luxurious, the room. Yeah, so this was already working quite well, especially the irony, and of course, the hotel is for backpackers and students, so they kind of could appreciate this kind of humor. So, I mean, after 1 year they had like 75,000 overnights, and it was quite picking up. There was of course a lot of press, because there was this hotel in Amsterdam that advertised itself in a way kind of very negative, they said, and it was kind of anti-advertising. So the second year we thought we were quite in a good mood, so we thought we'd make a very luxurious campaign. So I used this kind of 5-star hotel image that I stole from a 5-star hotel, to be honest. And so then we put all these stars on there, and we made a new very exclusive logo, and then in the bottom it said like not included. So actually nothing in this image is included, and then it had about 90,000 visitors after this. So this went viral, and was quite popular. Another year we thought like maybe it's good to show also for once like the people that visit the hotel, like the target group. So we used this classical advertising trick of before and after that they use, but we just turned it around. So check in, Hansbrink, a budget hotel, check out. And there's a lot of examples, and the city of Amsterdam was not very happy with us, especially not the tourist office. But so and here we thought like, okay, maybe now we reach the end of the line. I mean, it can't go any worse than this. And sometimes that is also a motivation then to make the next thing. So we thought like, okay, if it can't get any worse, let's try what we do then. So, I mean, we used that same line saying like, Hansbrink, a budget hotel, it can't get any worse, but we'll do our best. So these were like little kind of suggestions from the hotel how to make it look a little bit more bearable and a little bit more, here as well. I mean, there are 3 rooms in the hotel that have this view. This is not Photoshop, it's real. So, I mean, it's better to close the curtain because it will make your check-in a little bit more, pleasant in a way. Also here, I mean, I think the image on the right is a bit more promising than the image on the left, so just a little bit. And
Hans Brinker Budget Hotel, Amsterdam. It can't get any worse. But we'll do our best.
Yeah, and then another year there was all these kind of boutique and luxurious hotels popping up, design hotels popping up around the Hans Brinker budget hotel. So we thought like, okay, maybe we have also kind of unique design in our hotel. The horse is very important at the end. I worked a long time on that. Yeah, and then suddenly, I mean, this is just over the years, the work we made, and finally, after maybe 15 years working for them, there was finally, for the first time, something positive to announce about the hotel, because we found out that the hotel was accidentally eco-friendly. Because, I mean, when you check into a room, you have an eco-towel. I mean, if your normal towel is not there, and there's an eco-elevator or an eco-shower, and I mean, it's very positive. But sometimes when you have to come up with these ideas, they're already there, because I was for many years very pissed off that from their hotel sign only the L was burning. I mean, they didn't repair it, and it was horrible in a way. I mean, it was a disgrace to look at. And but then for this eco campaign, that, I mean, that image of the hotel sign, that was in a way the start of this idea for that eco campaign. And so we made also this kind of flyer saying like, save our planet, stay at the Hans Brinker budget hotel. And then on the back side of the newspaper, it said like, it had this little eco fact on top saying like, our hotel sign only uses 20% of the energy of normal hotel signs. So yeah, also like few years after that, a publisher from London wanted to make like a book about this hotel and about all the campaign from the hotel, and it was called yeah, the worst hotel in the world, so it was quite nice to do. Now it's funny that, I mean, funny that they have now over 160,000 overnights a year, and I mean, so it more than doubled, and the funny thing is that we didn't reach or kind of we didn't make the tricks with the complaints, of course, because now there are still a lot of complaints. But believe it or not, now a lot of people are complaining that they have been there, but they think it's not bad enough. They expected it to be more bad. And yeah, the good news is that they open now like a chain of hotels. And not really, but there's also now a second worst hotel, and that's in Lisbon. And yeah, so we do the site for the both hotels, and this is how they think about big groups in Lisbon. And yeah, so then this is also how we promote the hotel in Lisbon, saying same hotel, lots of new complaints, or same dubious service, slightly better weather.
Hans Brinker Lisbon. Sit back and relax at our idyllic oasis.
Yeah, thank God we also, after this client, we got some more upscale clients, and even an more upscale hotel client. This is nice to show because it's totally different, but in a way you can use the same kind of irony sometimes. So this is a hotel chain called Citizen M, and we started to work for them from the very beginning, even 2 years before they opened. So we came up with the name and a lot of the concepts in the hotel, and in a way we did everything around the hotel and in the hotel. So it's like a container hotel. This means that yeah, they put a lot of these kind of prepared shipping containers on top of each other and make it work. And this hotel is kind of the concept is budget and luxury combined. So there's not a lot of staff there. You have to do a lot of things yourself, but in the room it's quite comfortable and very kind of luxurious. Yeah, so the rooms are totally fixed already. They are in a warehouse and they ship them here and there, and then within 2 months they can set up a new hotel. Yeah, so we did a lot of the, this is where you have to upload your key card. Yeah, we made this kind of, the name Citizen M comes from mobile citizens. And so we made this kind of whole population of mobile citizens that we use throughout the communication and in the hotel. And but also the budget meets luxury. We do that in a lot of products in the hotel as well. So there's this paper bag. And we did even the scent for the shampoo and the idea for the shampoo. So it's Citizen AM, Citizen PM. Or the soap says like designed to turn even the longest haul traveler into a sparkling, clean and nice smelling human being again. And the next thing is quite funny. This was a very small job we got from them. They said like maybe you can also design the wake up call.
100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94.
Property. Yeah, this is the advertising for the. This was the opening of this hotel in London, and yeah, recently they opened also in Times Square in New York. It says like Citizen M says, luxury is free Wi-Fi and extra large beds, not a stupidly long car. Or we had this guy walking up and down the Hilton Hotel, saying Citizen M says a 24-hour bar and free Wi-Fi beats a guy in a silly hat carrying your bags. And the next is a film that we did for the promotion of this hotel in on Times Square, and this kind of dealt with that they want to finish off with all the hotel cliches. Yeah. Another topic I think that is very nice at the moment is that when you work in a certain profession and you learn a certain profession, that you can also make a lot of crossovers. I mean, if you study graphic design, why not be at the same time also a photographer or an artist that makes public artworks? Or I mean, it's quite nice to mix things. And also when you have a strong idea, I think you can easily also expand that idea in different kind of media that you're not really used to, but that can work maybe very good for that idea. So I have some examples. This is also a recent project where we work for a big school, and here they had a lot of problems with in their campus, that there was a lot of rubbish in the campus. So here it says like on the rubbish bin it says like throwing away rubbish in the rubbish bin, how difficult can that be? So we made that kind of very difficult, and so there's like this one where you really have to throw it in. And this has also to do that, I mean, it's nice to also take students like that serious instead of saying like, listen, throw your rubbish away. So we kind of teased them a little bit in that they had to make films, how easy it was for them to throw it away. And I mean, this one is totally heavy. You have to have 3 people to lift it up, and then you can put your rubbish in. And yeah, there's maybe maybe 7 or 8 of these rubbish bins in the schoolyard, and it works very well. I mean, they have fun with it, and they also get the message then, of course. Another thing that I still quite like, also, which has to do with the fact that you cross over with different disciplines, that I did a stamp for the Dutch post office, and I found out that nowadays you can also make these stamps on lenticular material. It's this kind of material like you see these postcards, if you bend them there's a little bit of a film in there, and but nowadays you can also print that on a small stamp. And then the idea was that because on the stamp it has like 30 frames in there, so you can make a little bit of a film of almost a little bit over 1 second of film is there in the little stamp then. So we positioned this as the smallest and shortest film ever. And so I asked Anton Corbijn, which is a Dutch filmmaker, I asked him to kind of direct this film, this short film, a little bit over 1 second. And not a very glamorous job, but so he really, this is like a Dutch, quite a kind of a most famous Dutch actress, and he positioned her in like a Dutch landscape. And so he made the film, and then I thought like maybe it's nice to kind of present this short film in the Dutch Film Festival, because that was coming up. So we had like a special night because we wanted to show the latest short film of Anton Corbijn. So there were maybe 1,000 people in the audience, and all in tuxedo and with gala and everything. And then, they were waiting because this was like a total premiere. Nobody heard of the fact that he made a new short film. And so we showed this film. Yeah, everybody pissed off again because they had to leave the audience again, and I mean, luckily on the way out they got a little stamp with signed by Corbijn, and and after a few beers they could get the joke, and they could laugh about it, but they did a lot of effort with their clothing, but I mean, but it shows that sometimes you fail, sometimes you, at least it made some people smile. This is maybe also nice to show how you can expand in different fields. We worked in London for Red Stripe, for the beer, and here we made a short film that we put online, where we actually had a corner shop that's like a shop that's 24-hour open, where you can get groceries and beers, and in London somewhere. And what we did, we rigged all the stuff in the shop. So the cup of soups, the washing powder, the beers, and every time when you would grab a Lucky Strike from the fridge, everything would start to move. So it was all done kind of with hidden behind all the products. So that would, I mean, it really worked like that. So I'll show you the film that we made of that one day that we filmed this.
English.
Yeah. This is another project quite a while ago, but I think it's very nice to show also that nowadays, or that you at least don't have to wait for kind of a job to come along, but you can also come up with your own idea and your own project. So this was again also during the World Cup of soccer, and this was the time that Holland didn't qualify. It happens a few times now, by now. Very frustrating, but you don't have that problem, luckily. And but then, I mean, so a lot of guys in the office had a lot of time extra, and they were constantly looking at the FIFA ranking because Holland was on the 9th place and they didn't qualify. But then somebody scrolled down once and he found out that on the bottom of the FIFA ranking there are two teams, Bhutan and Montserrat, and these are two teams that never ever won a game. And so the idea was that we had these two kind of worst football teams in the world to play against each other exactly at the same time as the World Cup final in Japan at that time. So on the same day, and that was the idea. And also make it like an official FIFA game. So we did research. Bhutan, you probably know, and Montserrat is like a volcanic Caribbean island. So this is like Montserrat. This is the national football pitch of Montserrat. You see that there has been a volcano eruption lately, and so it's not really an option to play there. And so then in the end, the team of Montserrat went to Bhutan, and the game was played there. We had to officially ask for permission to the king of Bhutan, and he liked this idea, and then made it into an official FIFA game. They also liked it. And so there was this game where, I mean, there were 25,000 spectators. It's the biggest event up till now in Bhutan. And I mean, this is the team of Bhutan, this is the team of Montserrat. If you look at the two teams, in a way you already see who won and who lost. I mean, you can kind of look at that. And yeah, so they played a very bad game. I mean, you haven't seen even the worst amateur game you ever seen. This one was worse. And but I mean, it was more about that these teams were playing against each other, and there would be one winner, and then yeah, that's also a celebration for these teams that had no chance. And yeah, as I said, there was a huge amount of people. So we made also the cup for the winner, this one, and yeah, in the end, Bhutan won with 4-1. And so the result was that Bhutan went to 199, and Montserrat stayed rock bottom. And but in the project was called The Other Final, and we also did like a documentary. So people from the office filmed the documentary. So, and there were like 4 or 5 people in the office who did this project. And I just show you like a little promotional film for that documentary.
On June 30th, 2002, the same day as the World Cup final in Japan, there was another final between the 2 lowest ranked teams in the world, the Buddhist kingdom of Bhutan and the Caribbean island of Montserrat. This was captured in a documentary that brings to life the story of this game through the experiences of the teams, organizers, and the people of Bhutan and Montserrat. Unlike the World Cup final, this game was not about who won or who lost.
I think there are 2 dimensions to the world of sports. One is the opportunity that it gives to individuals, to countries, to communities for social or cultural interaction. And that, I think, is the more important contribution that sports can make to society, through which it can promote peace and harmony, understanding among peoples.
This final was about two very different countries and cultures from distant parts of the world, meeting each other for the first time and sharing their love for the beautiful game.
We are draw.
2-1.
Of course, Montserrat is going to win. What other result could there be?
Montserrat 3, Bhutan 2.
Of course, we are expecting to win.
3-0.
I predict a very good game.
The other final, also nice for people who don't like football. I know, because I've seen it.
Yeah. Then I want to come back to mistakes and how, that it's also sometimes that they can be like an inspiration, and I mean, the book is more written about that I think that you should sometimes deliberately make a mistake, because then you can also find a new way of, or you find a new ground for a new idea. And but I mean, often I'm also very much inspired by mistakes that I see around me or that I find sometimes on images on internet. And specifically, I like these kind of construction mistakes, where you, I mean, you first think it's normal, this picture, but then you are thinking like, wait a minute, there's something wrong there. Also here sometimes very small mistakes, you know, like this, or even here, like, I mean, I think that this billboard, that more people look at this billboard than when it would be posted the right way around, and so that makes it quite fascinating. Things like this, they just fascinate me, and I get like a lot of ideas by this. And also here, I mean, quite stupid to put a bike path there, but somebody wanted to do it, and a lot of parking spaces that are not very accessible, and some of them are very accessible, and you see that they put a little bit of patch there because a lot of accidents happened already, and just because of this arrow, and things like this, you know, like you could also position it different. I put it there. And the next one is quite nice when you have children and when you really hate them. I mean, it happens because I know that. Then you can bring them to this kind of playground, and so you solve the problem in a way. I mean, it's a big mistake, but in a way, it's also kind of a very nice innovation, you could call it almost. And here this is like this is the graveyard in Amsterdam, and this is how they think in Amsterdam how to recycle people, and there's a garbage bin next to a grave. Can you believe it? I mean, you can put your ashes in there or whatever, or just push a whole person through there. And I mean, I have kind of these ideas when I see this image. It's kind of easy, and I mean, there's a clear example how to do it there. No, I do it wrong. Okay. And escalator, balconies, I mean, quite stupid. No window, but yes, we want to have a balcony there. Kind of a stairway to nothing. And the toilets is also toilets is a very popular topic when coming to mistakes. I mean, this disabled toilet make it even more difficult for the guys. And also there's a lot of privacy issues. I mean, how can you ever do this? I mean, look at this. I mean, it's like unbelievable what. I mean, this one is a disabled toilet. I mean, even when you're not disabled and you sneak in there, then you will be definitely disabled when leaving this toilet. I mean, unbelievably mistake. Then there's little solutions to open and close the door, of course. And sometimes mistakes are very small, like this one, very small, but with a lot of, I mean, will be a gigantic mess in this toilet, but I mean, and the next one is my favorite. It's really a great innovation as well. It's this one. You can take a piss, you can wash your hands, wash your dick. Everything is like one recycling and one. I mean, I can look for hours at this image and think like, why did not anybody else think of something like this? So. Yeah, so in the book you find a lot of these kind of ideas and pictures, and yeah, so then I want to come to the last but maybe quite important section of the presentation. That's all about the hobby. I think that a lot of people see their hobby as something separate from their work, which in some cases may be nice, but I think for creative people it's quite nice to integrate your hobby into your work. And because a hobby is also something where you are very fanatic in, and where you are, yeah, there's a lot of passion in there, and why would you not incorporate that in your work? Yeah, in my case, I very much like to, I mean, that has a lot to do also with perfection versus imperfection. So from a long time ago, I started to collect images made by amateurs and images from, for instance, family albums. And I got quite fascinated in the family album as such. And so I did an exhibition called Album Beauty, and it was kind of about the glory days of the family album. And yeah, this is also, we lived about 70 or 80 years with this kind of physical object of a family album, but now that's kind of over. So I did the exhibition where I blew up some family albums, and there was also a certain chronological order in how they would make family albums. And so the exhibition looks more like an installation where you can also really walk over pictures, you can stick your head through, you can touch the pictures. And but then more, I mean, more than anything, I got like interested in how people behave in these family albums. Because for instance, the most time that people take the most pictures back then, but even now as well, is that when the first baby is born. I mean, that is something very excessive, like the behavior is very excessive. So all over the world you see that people take pictures of their first baby, enormous amount of them. And yeah, so that's quite funny to see. And but when people don't like babies, or they can't have any children, then they take pictures of their dog, you know, like, and their pets. So this is like a French album where people have an enormous amount of pets, and they keep on photographing them. And I mean, when you can't have children and you hate dogs, then you take pictures of your car, and I mean, then you take a lot of pictures like that. But generally, albums are very boring. Eh? Like, here's a guy who photographed his house constantly, nobody in there. But I mean, this was long before Airbnb, so there was no use to make these pictures. And also here, like the family, this is like a flower garden. This is the only place in the album here where two of them are positioned there. And for the rest, it was only like pictures like this, very, yeah, monotone. You can put it, you can tell it, you can say it. Also, this one very boring, like two. Girlfriends that went to Ibiza, and after a few days they found out that there was no luck for them to find any boyfriend there, so they started constantly looking very miserable. They started constantly to photograph each other, like in the bathtub, on the couch, and looking always constantly miserable. And yeah, here is a guy who is really into photographing his wife with a blue umbrella, with a yeah, blue umbrella the whole day. And there's some more intimate albums, of course. And yeah, sometimes the behavior in these albums is quite nice, how people kind of be how they are very creative and stick these things next to each other. And here there's a mother and a son that constantly photographed each other. I don't know why, but then they stuck it also kind of like this together. There's a lot of stains on these photographs because now we delete the photograph, of course, but at that time, you know, it was a precious object, so you kept holding on to it. And yeah, they become very nice objects in a way. There's an ink stain on here, cracks, overexposed images. Then there's, of course, the classic camera strap in front of the lens. And then when they do that the whole day, on every picture there's this camera strap in front of the lens. And I mean, but you can argue if this picture here is maybe more interesting now than it would be without the camera strap, because it's a pretty boring picture, like just like a picture of a statue. But now it makes it more mysterious, I think. And then there's the images where people are really excluded from the album. They are brutally cut out and unwanted anymore in the albums, and and it's fantastic to see, you know, like the act of hate in these pictures. And I mean, my favorite one is the next one. Is a woman, is a wedding photograph of a woman, and she got probably divorced, so she cut herself out of the wedding picture, and then the arm of her husband is still on there because her own arm was hidden behind it. And yeah, and then I did a similar book and also exhibition called Mother Nature, because I found out in these albums that men always photograph their wife or their girlfriend in front of nature. Why? I don't know. It's just like maybe because they look better then, or the whole situation looked better. So there's a lot of images like this. I mean, literally plant them into the nature next to the flowers, take a picture. And I mean, you see this all over the world. German photograph. Sometimes they push the woman even to the side, you know, like. And I mean, sometimes the woman is so fat that she has to stand behind a little bit, behind the flowers, just to cover it up a little bit. And yeah, you see that a lot, like camouflaged into the. And then this one is literally thrown into a bush and sticks her head out. And then I did an installation where in a museum in Germany, where there's this flower bassin where I put like the images all on metal sticks, almost like as in a botanical garden. And yeah. And then also people ask me many times, like, do you also have a family album yourself, and how does that look? And so I looked a lot of, I was curious, because I didn't really make a family album, but I was making a lot of pictures of my children, and as you do. But then I think also that family photography is really like propaganda. I mean, it makes the family, you always want to put the family in the best light, and always smiling and happy, and it's just like to say, like, look, this is my family and they're doing very well. So I often photograph my children when they had like a bloody nose and like a black eye, and so I mean, I have to admit, you know, when they had a bloody nose, then I told them, like, wait a moment, I want to take a picture. And then I said, like, I'll give you the towel later. But and to prove that I didn't really kind of torture them, I brought my daughter today, and she's fine, you see, like, it's totally fine. So that's her as well, but she's still fine, you know, like, so that's the son with the bloody nose, another son with some cuts. And I mean, I have many of them, and at least it's not like family propaganda, I think. So, but it also questions how we look at images, huh? Like, I mean, I mean, a lot of people who see these pictures, they really hate them because they think like, oh man, it's child molesting. And I also tried to publish these images for a while, and nobody wanted to touch these pictures. And, this is Maria as well. Maria, can you show your eye now? Yeah, she's fine. And yeah, another thing that is done really kind of, I mean, that has also to do with my family. I show you just two projects that are very personal. And yeah, there's a lot of laughter in the presentation, but there's also sometimes more serious matters. This is a film that I made in a project together with Richie Sakamoto and Marlène Dumas. Marlène Dumas is the painter. And so we both made a film. Her film was called My Daughter, and my film was called My Sister. And yeah, so then this was just like a collaborative project. And it was kind of an estafette project. So Sakamoto made the sound. Marlène Dumas made a film to it that was edited, and then when I saw that, I made a film as well. And so I made this film with Super 8 material of my father, so I didn't shoot it myself, but and it's me, my mother, and my sister in the image. So it's like 3 minutes. Yeah, this shows also that I think for me it's also like a kind of a, this film was kind of a therapy to work with this subject, of course, but then it shows mostly also, I think, and also in the next project, that it's quite good that with existing material that you can really tell a story. And, yeah, that was in this case, I think, very important, because like there was very limited footage of the two of us on Super 8, and only maybe minutes, and then it was stretched like to 3 minutes 20, and but that was also kind of conceptually quite good, because it's, yeah, like the whole film is about that this happened, and then you stretch in time, you know, it's always there, you know, so however long that is ago. Yeah, the next project, also very personal, it's called Unfinished Father, and this is about my father, and my father, he had like maybe 2 years ago now, he had a stroke, and he's still alive, but he can hardly speak or move anymore. But before that, he was very active in restoring these Fiat Topolinos, like Italian cars. And he was busy with the 5th car when the stroke happened, so he definitely cannot finish that anymore, the car. And so what I was invited to make an exhibition in Italy, but I didn't know what to do. I had like carte blanche there, but at a certain moment I decided, okay, maybe I'll do something with his unfinished car. And so then what I did, I looked at all his photographs that he made of the progression of the restoration. So here is the bottom of the car that he pushed in the snow, because it's maybe one big white sheet that he could use to document this big piece of rusty metal in. And also when some parts came back from the spray painter, he kind of arranged them in the garden, and then it's the same garden as the ping pong was played, but then now there are these car parts lying there, and he just photographed. So he took these photographs, and he had them on his hard drive or in a little album. And even the steering wheel, he also documented that day by day, how he got off the old plastic and put like wood around it, worked for a month on it, and there's many of the pictures of the steering wheel. And it showed also that, I mean, this is kind of, the photographs are very amateuristic in a way, but it is quite nice to see the passion in there. And I wanted to use that in this exhibition, so it was called Unfinished Father. And then in Reggio Emilia, it's a city in Italy, I presented the project. So this is a huge synagogue where I brought the car of my father from the workshop to that museum. And then I printed all the photographs of him, quite big, and put them all on the floor, and people could walk in between. And so then this is also a way that you can see that with, I think as creators, when there's a certain frustration or pain you have, that you even can make something out of that, I think. Because I hear that this was a thing that was on the floor as well, saying like, you can, the story I just told you, and like my relationship with my father, this car will remain forever unfinished. Yeah, now the funny thing is that this exhibition was actually nominated for the Deutsche Börse Photography Prize, one of the most prestigious photography prizes. It was in London, the first exhibition. So the whole car had to go from Italy to London, and they had to lift it like 50 meters high into the building. This car is suddenly also now like an art object, and that travels all over the place. And it never drove on the road, but it had a lot of mileage already. Yeah, then this is an exhibition I did. It was called 24 Hours of Photos, and here I deal with. I just had this idea because I was very fascinated about the huge amount of pictures that are that we're dealing with during the every day in a way. I mean, we see now more images before lunch than somebody in the 18th century saw in his whole life. And what I did here, I downloaded for 24 hours all the newly uploaded pictures on Flickr, and then there were 950,000 in that period of 24 hours. And then I printed them for real and just chucked them into a museum. and people could walk through, pick them up, and also see like how when people pick them up, they could also see like how much blur there is now between private and public, and so this exhibition also traveled quite a lot. This was in a church in Switzerland. The priest was not so happy with this, but there were 23,000 visitors, so he must be happy because he normally never has so many visitors. And and then this is another exhibition where called My Feet. It's funny when you, for instance, Google. I did it once. I'm bored, and you see that a lot of people take pictures of their feet because they're bored. And so I Googled a lot in all kinds of languages of people taking pictures of their feet, and then made it into an installation where you could walk over again. And lately also I transformed it into a skate ramp in a museum, and you could like really skate at your own risk in the museum. And talking about selfies, I think the next project is also quite nice to show. It's we make a magazine called Useful Photography, and in that magazine we only put photographs done for a certain purpose, specifically done for a certain purpose. And strangely enough, I mean, this whole selfie culture gets more and more strange, of course, but there is also a certain kind of selfies that not a lot of people know about, because normally nowadays a lot of people take a picture of their dick. Mostly men do that, and they hold something next to it just for the size, you know, like. And there are so many pictures online like that I mean, we found 8,000 pictures online of somebody with something next to their dick, and so we made this magazine. 2,000 of them are in here, but we added it on the course of a day. You know, like so, what you would do in a day, and then follow a day, but then always with stuff that's next to the dick. So, of course, you start with the alarm clock, and then in the morning you have a shower, of course. You take a shower. I mean, you shave after you have a shower, and I mean, you use some deodorant, and I mean, I just show a few of them. I mean, the magazine has like thousands and thousands of them. I mean, you brush your hair after you did the deodorant. You brush your hair, and then you slowly prepare for breakfast. Of course, you have an egg. I mean, it's all just dragged from internet. I mean, all anonymous people. I mean, after the breakfast, you brush your teeth, you know, like, there's many different brands of toothpaste next to it. And, I mean, the next one is really one of the best ones, because if you're ready to go, you leave the door, you know, like, okay, you have to leave the door. I mean, just leave the door, and it's probably from English, because in English they call this doorknob, and so it looks really similar to. It's very. So that's probably why they do it. Okay, when you leave the door, then of course you go into the car, put a CD on, and because you have to go to work. I mean, you have to rush to go to work. And when you arrive at work, I mean, some people use PC still, and other people use Macs, and you know, you work a little bit, then you go to have lunch, of course, at a certain moment, and after lunch, a little cigarette break, and do a little bit of work in the afternoon. And but then soon after you did some work, you have to spend some money, because you have to buy some dinner for the night. And I mean, in the book there's many pages with the coins, of course, because I mean, people have like 1 coin, 2 coins, 3 coins. I mean, the most we could find is like 28 coins on a dick, and I mean, it's bizarre. And Maria, could you please cover yourself up? Yeah, and I spent some money and a little snack, a little drink in the afternoon. Soon, yeah, you have to go to the toilet. I mean, as people do. And then slowly, of course, there's the dinner preparation. There's the classic cucumber that couldn't be left out. Then after dinner, you make a bit of music, play guitar, play the drums, of course, very comfortable. And yeah, then the day, yeah, okay, the remote control, that's the most popular item next to a dick, because it's like kind of good comparable then. And it's a shame for this guy here, but I mean, anyway. And yeah, then I mean, beers, that's a new, that's also, I mean, in the magazine there are so many beer bottles next to, or beer cans next to a dick, that in the magazine we only have A to Z in beers, you know, so it's Astra, Beck's, Carling, Duffy, I mean, it's just A to Z. Then slowly the end of the day arrives. I mean, you want a bit of privacy, because you want to have sex, of course, you use, yeah, like, it's the normal end of the day. And I mean, in the end, you, I don't know what this is, but you have to go to bed, and then it's the teddy bear, and this is the end of the magazine, because the light goes off and you go to sleep, and the next day it starts all over again. And then anyway, I'm glad I did. I need some deodorant now. But another one we did, which I quite like, because I'm really going to exhaust you with ideas tonight, and with images also. Like, yeah, this one is called number 5. It's number 5, and this is all about this bull here. He's called Lord Lilly, and believe it or not, but every country has its own cow photographer, and because cows are always documented in exactly the same way. They do this to keep track of the breed. So they put always a little bit of grass underneath the first 2 legs, and that's just to straighten the back. And it's always held in exactly the same way behind the head of the cow. And in every country they do exactly the same. And it's just to register the breed. And in this magazine, they're just like a few and a selection of the daughters of Lord Lilly, and Lord Lilly was the one on the cover, the bull. So I just show you the little film about the Dutch cow photographer and how he works, because to make one picture, it's like a very frustrating job. I mean, it takes you half an hour at least to make one picture.
Rechts voor iets achteruit. Naar buiten toe. Kan de voorkant van de blokje iets achteruit bovenop gooien? Verder. Staart erbij, auto toe.
So when the cow is in a good position, he has to run to the car, because he puts a cassette tape on there with cow sounds, so that the cow is even more concentrated. But that didn't work out by now. You need to have a lot of patience to do this job.
Blijf even staan, is dat met je bak stakken?
Here we go. This was the end result. So, yeah, and I mean, now I want to show you some, yeah, to finish, like a few books from a series that I have been making for a while, called In Almost Every Picture. And this book series is only dealing with photographs of amateurs, but mostly amateurs that, without them knowing that they made like a really fantastic series. And this, it started this kind of fascination to do this in Barcelona, by the way, because around 2000 I found these pictures on in Cannes, in the market here. And so there were 400 pictures of a husband and a wife, and the husband took pictures of his wife for 12 years. And yeah, very beautiful images. Sometimes he picked a rose and she had to put it in her mouth. And they had no children because they never appeared on the picture. And I mean, it was fascinating how over time he photographed his wife. But then I also was putting them in order because all the the positives, so they were like 6x6 photographs, and they were all numbered. And then it turned out that over time, like after maybe photographing her for 10 years, they became more separated from each other, you know, like he just went back and it was, yeah, it's kind of painful. I mean, either the husband had more eye for the surrounding or she didn't want to be photographed up close anymore, because in the last picture of the book, he's really disappeared in the image. So I found it on the market, and then I went here to show the book, and I sent it to press, and people thought it was quite strange that somebody from Holland is looking for this woman that I was seeing if she was still alive, and they called her Senora X, or La Mujer Misteriosa. And in the end, an old woman came to the gallery, and he knew this woman. The woman on the picture is called Josefina Iglesias. And of course she died not so long before. And that's also why these images, and they had no parents, they had no children, and that's also why her husband also died, and that's why the images then ended up on the market. And so I went on with this fascination to look for certain images that had no, yeah, that were done by amateurs but had a fantastic story in them. So this was 700 pictures that I found of a taxi driver. And the taxi driver had a client, it was a woman from Holland, that he drove for 3 or 4 days sometimes and made a trip with her. So in his Mercedes taxi, this was probably in the 70s, and but then the photographer is the taxi driver. So every time he stepped out of the car and took a picture of the car, of his Mercedes. And it's kind of a funny thing to do. And but then I found out that every time the woman is sitting in the car also, on all 700 pictures. And even here, you know, you see she's still there, even hiding behind the, but sitting always in the car. Sometimes she's sleeping, or, I mean, the pictures are quite beautiful, I think. Sometimes she's looking at him, and but then he photographed like these images. Even at sunset, she was still in the car. I mean, at night, he took pictures of her. And then there was also one picture in these 700 pictures that actually was quite amazing, because she took a picture of him. And then that's this one, but she took it from the car also. So, but then, I mean, I traced who the taxi driver was, and then there was a little booklet with these photographs where he picked up the woman, And then in the street of where the woman used to live, I asked around, and then it turned out that the woman in the taxi, that she was handicapped. And so she was in a wheelchair, and that's why he, in a way, took her holiday pictures in a way, but like the car was around it. That was the only bummer, but that makes it very nice in a way to look at images like this, I think. Yeah, this one I picked up from internet. This is one of the early photo blogs. Was an amateur photographer from Japan who had a rabbit called Oolong, and Oolong could balance everything on his head. And so every day he would put a new picture on his weblog, and I would go there, and it's very nice to see. And it went more crazy and crazy, and I mean, Oolong was a very good balancer as well. And one day I went to the website, and there was nothing on his head, and he was a bit sick. And so then you could day by day also follow the sickness of Oolong. And one day I saw this one. And then, I think the next day I was tempting, like I thought it's over now, but I went again to the website because I was so addicted to it. And then this was the last image that he put on. These were 2 carrots, by the way, not his ears. So that was another book. This one is also special, I think. 2 more to go. This is a woman from Holland. That's her on the picture. And she is, when she was 16 years old, she was shooting in a gallery in a fun fair. I don't know if you have that system here. When you hit the bullseye, it takes an automated picture of you. So it's kind of one of the first selfies ever, because she hit the bullseye and then it takes a picture. So this was in 1936 when she was 16 years old. And then she was doing it every year after. And you see the whole, in a way you see the whole history of photography passing by. And every year after she took that. And I mean, I came across her. She's still alive. She's now 96 years old. And she's still shooting. I went this year, this 22nd of July, I went with her to the fun fair. And this is Ria now, so, or when the book came out. And so she sometimes comes with, to me with when there's an exhibition. I mean, I have to do a lot of work because she always brings a gun, like a plastic one, but I have to, in customs, I really have to talk a lot and show the book and say like, so then this is her shooting at me in the hotel room. And so they call her also the woman who shoots herself. And the funny thing is, like when the book came out, her original photographs were bought by the Contemporary Art Museum in Amsterdam. I negotiated for her about the money. And then in the end, that worked out, and she got like quite a lot of money for her, and then for her standards. And then for 2 years, she really burned the money. Like she did bus trips with the elderly home. There were numerous dinners that we all went to. She paid everything. She was just like burning like 20,000 euro in no time. So that was quite nice. This is one where it's kind of a funny one, because here there's a family that found this family album, and the family was dealing maybe with one of the biggest mysteries in photography, and that's how to shoot my black dog. And that's, I mean, they constantly failed in how they were photographing their black dog. And I mean, even in bright sunlight, it was like a disaster. And I mean, they decided also to have a black sofa, which doesn't work either. And even in bright sunlight, they positioned the dog against the shade. And but then finally, they found out that maybe when we fiddle around with the camera and we overexpose the whole picture, then we will finally see the character of the dog, hopefully. Yes, that happened. Yeah, so then that worked out, and then the last one I want to show today, which also shows that these amateurs and the mistakes they make is actually something very nice, I think. This is almost comparable to the first book with that Josefina Iglesias from Barcelona, where also a husband photographs his wife for a long time. These are two people from Florida, from America, and the woman on the picture is called Valerie, and the photographer and the husband is called Fred. And I found these pictures also on Flickr. I contacted them if I could work with them and make a book about the photographs. So what happens is that Fred has a little bit of a passion to photograph Valerie in the water. But then first he did it, this was in the 80s, and first he did it with a bathing suit. But then Valerie had to keep her clothing on when she was in the water. So like they experimented with in the sea, you know, when the pants were getting wet, there were more adventurous surroundings where she had to be in the water. And I mean, it got quite strange in the end, you know, like, I mean, also there were public fountains where Valerie had to stand in, and at night they secretly took pictures. Fred, he used the flash, of course, and I mean, for them it's fantastic, and but also when it rains, for them it's fantastic. Eh? Like, I mean, the more rain, the better, and so doing the garden is very pleasurable. I mean. Fred is, I think, a very good photographer, and I mean, they have a swimming pool. Of course, they have their own swimming pool where they take pictures in, and for the summer, for the winter. I mean, sometimes awkward pictures. She has to kneel down, and with it, I mean, nowadays Valerie takes everything in the water. Her purse, the jewelry, the makeup. I mean, look at her. It's like a modern Ophelia almost. But it's beautiful. I mean, I had like, so I made the book, and so what I really wanted, what my dream was that I would send the first copy of the book to them, and that Fred would make a picture with Valerie with the book in the water, of course. So I printed the first copies of the book on plastic. That's nowadays it's possible, and yeah. But I didn't tell them that I printed it on plastic. I said, like, I'll take the book. Doesn't matter if it gets destroyed in the water. I send you many more copies. And then Fred sent me this email. He said, like, hi Erik, I've sent a dozen of photographs from our afternoon book swim. I hope they meet what is needed for publicity photos. I have Photoshop touched them up for good presentations. I shot well over 100 views, and these are the best. The shoot went well, of course. We were both in the mood. There was a light overcast, as hoped for, with no harsh shadows. Very professional. Valerie wanted to know if the book was really to go into the water. I said yes, of course. He just said yes. But the book slipped down into the water a little bit at a time. Valerie taking it and herself in deeper as the photographs progressed. Eventually it was fully under. We enjoyed the tantalizing intrigue of it. After the photo sequence, we both swam with the book, looking again at each picture. The water was not seeming to have any effect on it. We must have enjoyed 2 hours in the water with it. I rinsed it off in the house, dried off each page, and placed paper towels between each page. The book seems to have withstood the lengthy adventure just fine. Loved the whole business, Fred and Valerie. And then, I mean, these were the pictures that I got. So they were really having fun. This was my most favorite picture. So then I thought, okay, now the story is over. But then I got invited in a photo festival to exhibit these pictures. And so this is in the Lake of Geneva, where Valerie is floating 10 by 15 meters. Fred and Valerie were, by the way, also invited for the festival to come. But they couldn't come. They had another shoot going on. So that was very, very bad, very unfortunate. Because you could see Valerie all over the city, and I mean, she was everywhere, and I even made a fountain out of her pictures. And so then I thought, okay, now it's finally finished. But then recently I found online, I found this picture looking quite almost similar like the cover of the book. And this was a picture made by the fashion company Stella McCarthy. And they totally ripped off the cover of the book from Fred and Valerie. I mean, it can't be a coincidence to have like a model standing there with in the swimming pool with a handbag in the same hand. And so what I did, I sent these two pictures as a comparison to Fred and Valerie, and yeah, I thought maybe they will maybe they are pissed off about this, and they will take legal actions towards Stella McCarthy. But then Fred sent me this email, and maybe that also sums a lot up from what I told also about the mistakes and also the behavior of an amateur. So Fred sent me this email. He said, like, we see the Stella photos. She does look a bit starched, not enjoying the adventure. sort of makes one wonder why she would be doing it to start with. I would hope she would get satisfaction in eventually taking the whole outfit under. So thank you very much. Maybe some questions or? Shall we do questions or shall we straight go to the book signing? I always heard that maybe what is nice, the first really intelligent question gets like all the penises, so then I mean I have to get rid of it. I mean I can't go through customs again with it.
There are two.
Oh.
What is the most important when you are developing?
I think yeah, definitely that you should. I think first of all you should really enjoy what you do, and you should not have so much frustration in your job. I mean, a lot of people have built up quite some frustration in the job, and I think that if you don't take yourself too seriously, and you enjoy what you do, and you yeah, like go with that, and are very playful with that, then things will work out also. I mean, a lot of people get quite worried in how they are in a job. I mean, don't take me wrong, all the work I showed today, of course I do also other works, but I mean, for 20 years now I haven't made any huge compromise. So for me it's also very, I mean, I don't like to make work that I hate, you know, like, so it's better than to stop the project and do something else. Than, but in a way that brings also a lot of risks and a lot of, yeah, you have to be quite strong in that. But it paid also off in that sense, because, yeah, I mean, we don't have to do all the work, but we do some jobs, you know, like we are in Amsterdam with 30 people, in London with 15, maybe quite a lot, but still quite overseeable. And still you can maintain a certain style and don't compromise too much.
What is the name of the typography of Exuna?
Fuck no, I mean, he definitely doesn't get the penis book. Huh? I mean, that's,
he or she
how can you ask a question like that? Where are you? I mean, what is the name of the type? Who cares? I mean, it's just like, it can be any other typeface. I mean, okay, for the dick book. One more question for the dick book. Oh!
I would like to ask about the
I'm here.
Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
part of time has to be.
Sorry, the line has to be in English. Maybe the fact that they want to have more tourists visit Amsterdam.
But they ask designers that you have to make a frame that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was quite clear because the theme was maybe for the people in Amsterdam, but then the theme was already about that I am from Amsterdam, but it was also a claim for, of course, new people to visit Amsterdam, and a lot of them are foreign, and they
Makes sense for me that.
Yeah.
But I would like to know if they ask you. Has to be.
No, not. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anymore, but it sounds quite logic to do it in English. I mean, thanks. Any other? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. My question is, you have a lot of visual work, you have a lot of found footage work, you have a lot of design work. And for me, the interesting question, what are you? How do you define yourself? You're an artist? Are you a designer?
No, that's a good question. I mean,
a design studio?
No, I think that's a good question, but it's also a question I often don't like to answer myself. I mean, the thing is that, yeah, like for instance, when I started in advertising, I did a course in graphic design, in painting, so I did already many things. But at that time, maybe in the beginning of the 90s, everything was very blocked off, and if you do advertising, then you do that. But I have been always doing things outside of it, and nowadays you can really mix it also sometimes, which is nice because a lot of the creative disciplines are very democratic nowadays. So you can easily cross over, and yeah, in my case, you're right, for me it's also very difficult to answer question. A question that's very difficult to answer, of course, because sometimes I'm this, sometimes I'm that, but in a way it's also a luxury. I see it as a luxury, but yeah, it can be a problem when people ask you, like, what do you do? Then yeah, sometimes it takes quite maybe 15 minutes to explain them what I do. But I mean, but in a way, of course, I do a lot of artist works, for instance, and next year I have like a quite big retrospective about that work. But I think that in ideas, those worlds can be mixed. You know, you have initial ideas, and but of course, financially or have nothing to do with each other, and also not in how, because as when you work in a job, you do something specifically for a client, and when you work artistic, you just develop your passion totally. And but I still think like that. Sometimes you can combine it, and sometimes we get also work through the books that we sometimes do that are just like artist books. Is that okay? Okay, thanks.
I just wondering, most of the vendors, some things that came from really closer things.
Yeah.
Family or here,
yeah.
Books, or your hotel was close to you. Then at the end, your internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I think that's something very close to you.
Yeah.
Or you feel it very close, or you think
course,
that this
I mean,
is something that is going to be that.
Yeah, but that I know. Yeah, I get the question, but I mean the internet is also very close. I mean the distance has nothing in a way. I know what you mean, but
yeah, it's close, but not emotional.
No, I think
emotional.
I mean, when you compare the photographs I found in Cannes and the one of the last one in internet, like on Flickr, I think both of them are very, yeah, but also very charming. Very, there's something strange in it, and I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. I don't want to limit myself. I mean, the internet is nowadays the biggest flea market where you can find images anyway. So then, yeah, and there is also kind of a new wave already for some years that they call it then post-photography, but in a way, yeah, like you can also see like there are so many images online that haven't been used yet. Like, why would you make yourself another new image if you haven't used the old ones or the existing ones yet? So yeah, it's a nice playground. I mean, let's not forget that, for instance, a book like this, we make it, and I mean, I don't check the rights on all these. Will be a very messy business, but I mean, that's also that because it's like an artistic project. And not yeah, it's not a commercial thing. Yeah. That's a good question.
No,
here.
no.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna ask if you asked for.
Yeah, that will be difficult, you know, like. But then when somebody would call, I would say like, yeah, please come and we compare it, and then if it's really you, then I'll take the picture out. Okay.
Hi. Working for which kind of audience do you think gives you the widest room to create?
Sorry?
Like, which kind of audience the best?
I mean, I think like you don't have to choose that. I mean, it's quite nice for every kind of audience. You can make something different. Yeah.
I was wondering how was clients.
Yeah, I mean, that is also, it's quite, yeah, it's a good question, but the thing is that here you see the end result, and then, for instance, with the hotel, for instance, like you really have to, yeah, also get to know each other, and you need to like each other, and you need to explain why you do that, and I mean, with the hotel, there was very strategic idea, you know, like honesty is our only luxury. That's a beautiful idea, I think, and of course he didn't like that from the beginning, but when it was slowly working, it was okay. Thanks. Okay. I'll run to the table and
yeah,
I sign some books
sign
for you. Yeah.
The books if you want. Thank you very much, Erik.
There's some more books here.
You want to go there?
Yeah.
Okay.